Taliban leaders marched into Kabul, preparing to take full control of Afghanistan 2 decades after they were removed by the US military. The militant group took over the presidential palace and said it plans to soon declare a new Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Hours earlier, American-backed President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. Taliban's deputy leader, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar said, "We have never expected to reach such a victory, we should show humbleness in front of God." He published a video message congratulating his fighters and the nation on Twitter. He said, "Now is the time when we will be tested on how we serve and secure our people and ensure their good life and future to the best of our ability." "20 years after being removed from power in a US-led invasion, Taliban militiamen swept into Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, facing little resistance from Afghan government forces. The Pentagon authorized an additional 1,000 US troops to be deployed to Afghanistan to help with the evacuation efforts, said a defense official who was not authorized to speak publicly. That is on top of the 5,000 troops that President Joe Biden announced would be sent to ensure an orderly and safe drawdown and evacuate US personnel, as well as Afghans who helped American forces. The Taliban's rapid advance coincided with the removal of US, British, and other foreign troops. Within hours, Afghanistan's Washington-backed president had left the country, and the flag at the US embassy had been lowered amid a hasty evacuation of diplomatic personnel. More than 150,000 people died during the war. The US lost more than 2,000 soldiers and spent trillions of dollars. Tens of thousands of Afghan civilians and soldiers lost their lives. Ashraf Ghani, Afghanistan's president, said on Facebook that it was a hard choice, but that he decided to leave to prevent bloodshed. He signed off his post with "Long live Afghanistan." At the same time, the Taliban released a statement saying they had entered the capital of 6 million people and they were working to restore law and order. On the other side, Russia is in contact with Taliban officials via its embassy in Kabul. President Vladimir Putin's special representative on Afghanistan said, a day after the Afghan government collapsed and the capital fell to the Islamist insurgent group. Russia will not rush a decision on whether to recognize the new Afghan authorities. Moscow would watch the action of the new authorities closely and would then make a decision. In the case of China, Beijing has said it will respect the choices of the Afghan people, in the first sign that Beijing was ready to give its cautious support to a Taliban-led government in Kabul. Tony Chuchka and Eltif Nahafizadeh wrote on Bloomberg that the speed of the Afghan government's collapse shocked NATO allies and prompted condemnation from both sides of the US political divide over how President Joe Biden's administration appeared to be blindsided by the Taliban's easy advance. Dozens of countries issued a joint statement calling those in positions of power and authority across Afghanistan to allow Afghans and foreigners to depart safely if they wish, to keep borders open, and maintain calm. As the Al Jazeera network broadcast what it said were live images of armed Taliban fighters roaming the palace and posing at desks, Kabul's airport became the staging ground for the planned exit of most US embassy personnel, symbolizing the end of a 2-decade engagement sparked by the September 11 terrorist attacks in 2001. The Taliban swept through Afghanistan in a matter of weeks, taking advantage of a vacuum left by departing US and NATO forces, working against Biden's August 31 deadline to end America's longest war. US officials said they're working for an orderly departure. In a joint statement, the Pentagon and State Department said the US will expand its presence at Kabul's international airport to nearly 6,000 troops to evacuate thousands of American citizens, as well as locally employed staff and their families. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said, all Kabul embassy personnel have been safely evacuated to the airport and the US military has secured its perimeter. In many cases, the militants encountered little or no resistance from Afghans' US-trained military. Key provincial centers close to Kabul and in far-flung corners of the nation fell in quick succession. Skies over Kabul buzzed with US military helicopters ferrying passengers from the US embassy. Afghans lined up for cash and many headed to the airport, desperate to book a flight out of the country. Blinken said, "We're relocating the men and women of our embassy to a location at the airport. That's why the president sent in several forces to make sure that, as we continue to draw down our diplomatic presence, we do it in a safe and orderly fashion." The acting U.S. ambassador was among those evacuated to the airport. The U.S. Embassy said on its website that the airport was taking fire and advised U.S. citizens to shelter in place. Top Biden administration officials briefed members of Congress, many of whom were furious about the visible chaos to end a campaign that's cost the lives of about 2,400 American soldiers and close to $1 trillion. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said, "A proud superpower has been reduced to hoping the Taliban will not interfere with our efforts to flee Afghanistan. Terrorists and major competitors like China are watching the embarrassment of a superpower laid low." The Taliban has sought to portray a moderate stance, with a spokesman telling the Associated Press the group wants to form an open, inclusive Islamic government. Over the weekend it said it would respect public property, provide a safe environment for business, redeploy bureaucrats and military officers, and provide amnesty for anyone who helped the invaders. The group also denied reports that it had killed prisoners and forced villagers to hand over their daughters to marry Taliban soldiers. During Taliban rule from 1996 to 2001, women were prohibited from working, attending high school, or appearing in public without a burqa, a garment that covers the wearer's entire body, head, and face. Yet that hasn't eased concerns on the ground, where Taliban fighters have shown signs of resuming their old ways of oppressing women. Furthermore, members of the Afghan government have expressed anger at Ghani for leaving the country. The country's official embassy account in India called him a traitor, but later deleted the tweet. On the other side, Biden has said he was hemmed in by a now tattered peace accord negotiated with the group by the Trump administration, which made the popular decision to bring U.S. troops home from Afghanistan. Trump's deal imposed a May 1, 2021 deadline on U.S. forces and left the Taliban in the strongest position militarily since 2001, Biden said in a statement. Political analyst Catherine Zimmerman said, "I think it's quite clear that the Taliban have won this war. They took 20 years to do it and they have proven that their strategy of patience will outlast the U.S."